You go to a doctor. The doctor's supposed to help you. But you're getting worse, and you're getting worse, and you're getting worse. Sooner or later, you have to come to a conclusion. Maybe I need to try something else. This doctor doesn't know what he's doing. And they've been doing this to black people for 220 years. I think now they're about to wake up.
Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast.
Welcome to this brand new edition of the Michele Tafoya podcast. That was Vince Everett Ellison. You're going to hear more from him a little bit later in the podcast. We're a short one today, but he's an interesting listen. So you want to stay around for that. In the meantime, please subscribe, like us. We're available wherever you download podcasts. So please find us. We'd love to have you on board. Interesting. Last night, I watched the first 30 minutes of the debate again with my daughter. She had it as a school assignment. So this was 24 hours after the fact. So I'm sitting with a 15-year-old girl, and she's watching this, and I'm not saying anything because I don't want to influence her and her project. But when she heard Kamala Harris's first answer, the question was, are people better off than they were 4 years ago? And as has been well documented, Harris dodged the question. And my 15-year-old pointed out, she didn't answer the question. She keeps changing the subject, she said throughout this first 30 minutes of the debate. When Kamala Harris said, I'm going to invite you to one of Donald Trump's rallies because blah, blah, blah. My daughter said, has she been to one? In other words, how does she know? So it was very interesting to watch this through the eyes of a 15-year-old who knew better. And I think this debate now, there's been a lot said about it. There are people who say if you're criticizing the refs, then you're losing. But I heard a Democrat pollster this morning on national television say he was so disappointed in ABC and the way they put their thumb on the scale of this debate. And he wondered aloud how things might have been different had the moderators pushed back against Kamala Harris and some of the things she said that they knew weren't true, like the very fine people hoax, like the bloodbath hoax. I laugh at myself using the word hoax, but it's the easiest way to get it across. And he said, how might this debate have been different had the moderators done their job? And he said, and I'm sad to see what they've done to real debate in this country. This was a Democrat. I was really surprised. Anyway, we have not yet heard all the reverberations of this debate. But in a minute, I'm going to read to you from the New York Post because they did fact check Kamala Harris. I won't read you the whole thing. I'll just give you some highlights. We're going to get to that. Plus, again, this author, Vince Everett Ellison, on his book about the Democrat Party. You might be very interested to hear what else he has to say. All of that coming up. Stay tuned. So I've told you again and again how much I love the people at besthotgrill.com. They make the incredible Solaire infrared grills that heat up in just 3 minutes to searing heat and make the juiciest grilled food you will ever taste. But don't take my word for it. Try before you buy with the Solaire Demo Rental Program. For only $47, you can use a Solaire infrared grill for 2 weekends and the week in between without a salesman breathing down your neck. Test its versatility with steak, chicken, fish, pork, veggies, all the foods your family enjoys. Inspect Solaire's quality construction and experience firsthand Solaire's hot and fast performance. At the end of the demo, just wipe it off and put it in the box for a UPS pickup. Solaire makes it so easy. And then you'll get a coupon for $47 off any new Solaire infrared grill. The Solaire Demo Rental Program will convince you why Solaire is truly the last grill you'll ever need to buy. Learn more about the demo program and these amazing USA-made grills at besthotgrill.com. That's besthotgrill.com. Solaire Demo Rental Program at besthotgrill.com. All right, I mentioned that New York Post article. If ABC had done its fact-checking, here's what it might have found. Kamala claimed, this is a quote, as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world for the first time this century. Okay, fact check. Our troops in the Middle East are absolutely in a combat zone under attack from Iran, which the Biden-Harris administration has allowed to grow more aggressive in its use of proxies. In January this year, 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan were killed by a drone attack from an Iran-aligned group, and dozens of others have been wounded in similar strikes. Here's another Kamala claim, quote, "What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again." Fact check. The Heritage Foundation, who, by the way, we had on this show and interviewed about Project 2025, an independent think tank, produced Project 2025, not the Trump campaign. Trump has repeatedly said he wasn't involved in its writing, does not believe in its practice, and won't implement it. Here's another Kamala misstatement or claim. Quote, "Let's remember this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad at the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5, took out a full-page ad calling for their execution." Fact check. Trump's 1989 advertisement did not call for the execution of the Central Park 5. He talked about a woman raped in the park, but did not mention the names of suspects or who they were. Titled, "Bring Back the Death Penalty, Bring Back the Police," Trump simply bemoaned how generally unsafe New York City had become and that criminals needed to be held accountable. This preceded what would become a general backlash against disorder in Gotham that led to the election of Rudy Giuliani as mayor and more proactive policing. And I'll do one or two more here. Kamala says, quote, "I have not banned fracking as vice president of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking." Fact check. Harris passed the bill because it was packaged with left-wing giveaways. Those new leases were not the point of the bill and only begrudgingly included to assuage Senator Joe Manchin. Later, Manchin would accuse President Biden and Harris of going back on their word, saying new regulations were undermining the lease promises. "This is bull blank," he told Politico. "So they're going to basically starve us out of energy that we have a tremendous abundant supply of because of their aspirational thoughts?" And here I'll do one more. Kamala claim, "Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That's not happening," unquote. Fact check. As the Daily Signal points out, Minnesota had a 2015 law that required doctors to report whether abortions resulted in the live birth of a baby. In 2021, it happened at least 5 times, but no measures were taken to keep them alive. In 2023, Governor Tim Walz stripped out that reporting requirement as part of an abortion law that has no limitations on how late in a pregnancy it may happen. There's some of the fact checking that could have taken place had we had moderators whose intentions were to inform the American public, not to prop up one side or the other. All right, that's that. Stick around, more to come. Hey, are you feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of health insurance? Have you had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars? Introducing ShareRight, healthcare done the right way. At ShareRight, you're not just a number. You're part of a caring community. And forget about paying excessive premiums. With ShareRight, you stand to save 30 to 50% compared to health insurance. Think about what you could do with all that saving. But it's more than just savings. ShareRight ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it. Boy, that's a problem in the UK right now. From routine checkups to unexpected emergencies, with ShareRight, your healthcare is their top priority. Empower yourself today by taking control of your healthcare costs. Visit shareright.org/Tafoya. Tafoya. You see it there on the screen. To learn more and see how much you can save, visit shareright.org/Tafoya. Tafoya. That's shareright.org/Tafoya for healthcare done the right way. Well, as promised, Vince Everett Ellison, author of this fine new book, The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. He's also host of the Vince Everett Ellison Show. Sir, thank you for joining us. You hear the phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is that basically what you're saying about this idea of tolerance?
No, I'm saying it's intentional. The Democratic Party has always been an evil institution. It was the party of slavery from 1800 to 1860, the party of the Confederacy from 1860 to 1865, the party of Jim Crow from 1865 to 1965. Now it's a part of transgenderism, atheism, Marxism, castrating little boys, calling them little girls, cutting off the breasts of little girls and calling them little boys, drag queens in public schools, shaking their behinds in children's faces, pulling the Bible out of the libraries, putting porn in, bringing fentanyl and sex trafficking illegal across the border, taking your guns away, taking God out of the public square. They've always been evil. They've always found a way to take virtuous things and make them sinful things. Like, they'll take something like gay and they'll turn it into promiscuous sex. Or they'll take something bad like pride. Our Bible tells us that God hates pride, but they name a whole month Pride Month. They tell you to take pride in your sin. And then they take a word like tolerance. And they take a word that is basically sinful to us because Jesus never tolerated sin. He would love you. He would confront you with your sin, and he'd tell you to go sin no more. And they've told us to be tolerant of bad behavior, sinful behavior, and we've allowed them to debase our culture and debase our children. And I just say that my tolerance has ended, and we need to start pushing back on these people.
You talked about the Democrat Party through the years. There seemed to me to be a time when John F. Kennedy was president, and certainly now his nephew, RFK Jr., has said, this Democrat Party is not my uncle's Democrat Party. How would you take that statement from RFK Jr.? I mean, was there ever a point when the Democrat Party was what it appeared to be, which was a good party of the working man?
When it came to the black community, never, ever. It was always a satanic party when it came to black people. As I've just given you the history of it. The Southern Democratic Party especially, and the Urban Democratic Party always exploited black people. It's never been a time in history when it didn't. They stole every election from 1876 until 1965.
How do you make that assertion?
Because again, they were a part of slavery from 1800 to 1860. Every body that was part of the Confederacy when they succeeded in 1960 was part of the Democrat Party. From 1860 to 1865, the whole Democratic Party, the whole Confederacy was part of the Democrat Party. After the Confederacy, and we had our Reconstruction from 1865 to 1965, nothing but Democrats. For 100 years, they ruled the South. Every Democratic Party senator, save two, voted against the Civil Rights Acts and fought against them. All the governors were also Democrats. And now, when you look at the Democratic Party, look at where they rule. Every big city, where you see black men going to prison, where you see the terrible schools, where you see the violence, where you see the crime, all run by Democrats. They fight against school choice. They are the ones that are pressing God out of the public square. They're the ones that are taking guns away. They're the ones that are allowing the illegals to come over. And when you look at the black community has been under the tutelage of the Democratic Party for 220 years. We've been under and at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America for that time. An illegal can come over the Rio Grande and in 1 year can make more money than a black man whose family's been over here for 20 generations. Why? Because they want black people exactly where they are, poor and under their control. It works for them. Why wouldn't they do it?
So when Barack Obama gets elected president, he's not representing you in the black community in any better way?
Of course not. Barack Obama is an iPod version of the House Negro. They've always chosen those people to rule over black people, and they do it now. The Black Caucus is that. And our Bible tells us, Jesus Christ said, how do you know about a false prophet? You know a tree by the fruit it bears. You look at what they produce. And again, the black community is at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America. It's always been there. They've never moved up. The schools are the worst schools in America, but you talk about school stops, so the Democrats do.
They turn the blame on Republicans. They always say it's the Republicans' fault. How do you counter that argument?
Look in any majority black place in America and tell me what Republican rules it. Not a one. They're all ruled by the Democratic Party. My first book, The Iron Triangle, talks about this. They try to deflect and say that it is all Republicans, but when you go down into the black community, all you see are Democrats. And mostly you're going to see black preachers, black politicians, and black civil rights workers, and they are conduits between the black community and the black community and rich liberals in the Democratic Party, and their job is to make sure that they keep the black Democrats under control by hook or by crook. The Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, the Black Lives Matters, the James Clyburns, and Maxine Waters. They work for white Democrats like they've always worked for white Democrats to keep their people under the heel and under the control of that party. They are not the best of us. They are the worst of us. And again, you go back to it. Look at the fruit that they bear. They're at the bottom. They control it all. They control every failing school, every whole house, every drug corner, every police department that are locking black men up, and all the juries and the judges that are doing it too. They are the problem. And until we eradicate these people from our communities, we'll never, ever move up.
And how do you do that?
Voting. And first we have to shine the sunlight on them and let them know that they've been lied to about these people, because, of course, the iron triangle, most black people, most black preachers, most black politicians, and most civil rights workers, they have the authority in the black community, and the GOP does not go down there. So, because the GOP won't go down there, we have to do it. This is why I write. This is why I do my podcast, the Vince Everett Ellison Show, on X, Rumble, and YouTube. We're going over their heads now. We're not asking permission anymore. So because I'm doing this and other people are doing this, and you're giving me an opportunity to come on your show, we are now making some headway. And we are kind of breaking down that barrier where people are looking around and understand that they've been sleeping with the enemy for the last 200 years, and it's time to run these people out. That's what the end of tolerance is talking about. We're no longer tolerating you sexualizing our children. We're no longer going to tolerate you running God out of the public square. We're no longer going to tolerate you taking away our right to defend ourselves and flooding our communities with drugs and fentanyl and all these illegals. We're not going to tolerate it anymore of you taking God out of school and putting drag queens in and putting the Bible out and putting porn in. Our tolerance has ended, and now it's time to push back.
And how do you think this book and your message and your show is going over? What kind of impact do you see yourself having?
Oh, it's having a great impact. Every time I go into any community, black or white, Christians have this. It's interesting because the one thing the Democrats have done very well is they made black and white Christians fight each other. We've sat down, you find out we have 99% of all things in common, but they'll tell them that white conservatives hate them and that black Christians hate them. And it's a lie. When they sit down and they talk, they found out that they have a lot in common, and that their common enemy, like Malcolm X said, is the white liberal. He always has been. The white liberal Democrat is the enemy of not just black people of America and the world. And he needs that entity needs to be eradicated. And I'm not talking about violently. I mean, his ideology needs to be crushed, and it needs to be shown to America how it is an anathema. Where everywhere they do it in the black community, they destroy people. Wherever they do it in America, they destroy people. And they have just a small group at the top that takes advantage of these people and get their power from their misery.
Where does Kamala Harris fit into this whole thing?
Same thing. She's just part of the iron triangle. You take money, you take power, you drag it through the black community, you find out who bites, and you put those people on top. But that's not strange. We've always had traitors. Throughout history, we've had traitors. We've had Brutuses, and we've had Benedict Arnolds, and in Black America, it's just really part of our culture. Usually, our whole structure of leadership was created by the slave master to control the black masses, and now it's just a variation on the theme. The same people that control the black community in slavery and in Jim Crow control them right now. It's the Democrat Party, and they use the same model. They use the black preacher, the black politician, and the black civil rights workers to do their dirty work, and they tell black people that the people that really want to help them are the ones that they should be wary of, and the people that really hate them are the ones that they should trust. And look at the result. Again, the results are the things that matter. You go to a doctor. The doctor's supposed to help you. But you're getting worse, and you're getting worse, and you're getting worse. Sooner or later, you have to come to a conclusion. Maybe I need to try something else. This doctor doesn't know what he's doing. And they've been doing this to black people for 220 years. I think now they're about to wake up.
Very, very interesting. Vince Everett Ellison, you can catch him on YouTube, as he said, X. And the book is The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. He's the host of the Vince Everett Ellison Show, as I said. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us.
Thank you so very much, and thanks for having me.
So we covered a lot of ground today. Hope it was worth your while. We will see you again next week. Remember, we're 3 days a week again now that we're in full-on election mode. So please join us. And as I say every single time, be brave. Goodness knows our country needs more courage than ever before. And do good, even if it's towards someone you don't really care for. Be brave, do good. We'll see you next time.